Pandora was given a box by Zeus with instructions to not open it under any circumstance. Impelled by her curiosity, Pandora opened it, and all evil contained therein escaped. She hurried to close it, but the whole contents had escaped, except for the one thing that lay at the bottom, the spirit of hope, named Elpis. I appreciate and am very thankful for hope. Hope is my favorite word. Hope, what has gotten me through living with our son's addiction the last several years. Hope, what now gets me through our son's anoxic brain injury. Our son, Ralph, is addicted to heroin. You see, I refuse to call him a heroin addict because although he is an addict, that is not what defines him. Our son is an artist, musician, funny, and kind. He is a son, grandson, nephew, brother, and father. Yes, heroin was his lifestyle, but it was not his life. I also refuse to use the term clean. In my opinion, our son is not and has never been dirty. Addiction is a disease, and if you are in remission from cancer or any other disease, you do not describe yourself as clean. I choose to use the word sober or sobriety. The horrible thing about addiction is it alters you, who you truly are, although the addict is not able to see it. It altered our son to the point that on our wedding anniversary, August the 17th, 2013, he attempted suicide by hanging. He always told me he would never kill himself. Thankfully, they were able to revive him. He spent 47 days in the hospital, ICU, NTCU, and the rehab unit. While hospitalized, we also found out he is HIV positive from his heroin use. But how did we get here? We are a strong family. We are a loving family. Addiction could never happen to us, and then when it did, I was not going to talk about it. And then when it did, I would not say it out loud because then it would become true. What kind of mother am I that our son would lie to us and steal from us to escape what we thought was a good life? If I ignored his addiction and did not say it out loud, would it just go away? Unfortunately, no. In spring 2011, we had an intervention. He walked out. A few days later, he called in and said he would go. My sister took him to Astoria. He called us every day crying to come home, saying he was fine and if we let him come home, he would never use again. He walked out after detoxing. In November, he came to my work and asked for help. The next morning, I took him back to Astoria. He was there for 28 days, then was asked to leave because he broke the rules by making a phone call. Spring 2012, my parents hired an interventionist. They flew in from Chicago. Again, my sister researched and found a rehab in Michigan. We had the intervention, and he flew out that night with the interventionist. I attended his graduation ceremony in June after he completed a 60-day stay. He then went to Colorado to a sober living house and was hired at Taco Bell. Things were looking good for the first time in a long time. The good did not last. A warrant was issued for his arrest in Oregon, and on the way home from work, he was stopped and taken into custody. My parents posted bail and flew him back to Oregon to turn himself in. He went to court in December 2012, pled guilty, and was put on supervised probation. This started his downward spiral towards hell. In April 2013, his dad received a phone call from our other children saying Ralphie was taking things. His dad rushed home from work and caught him with heroin. I went home and began calling to find help. Anything from anyone. I was desperate. I was referred to a rehab in Vancouver, Washington by our insurance company. I called, but they did not have a bed available. I was told to call back the next day. I spent the night on the couch while he slept on the floor so I could watch him. The next day I began calling and finally a bed opened and we could take him at 7 that evening. My husband and I drove him there. Funny thing, he was adamant he would be in violation of probation for leaving the state and was truly worried. I told him he was violating probation by using heroin, but for that, he had no answer. He stayed the entire 30 days, and once again, things looked good. When he came home, he stayed close to home, but then eventually started hanging around the same friends, and old habits started kicking in. I asked and asked, but he swore to me he was not using again. Once again, it broke my heart because I knew he was lying. I spoke to him on Wednesday, August the 14th, this year, and he sounded good. Finished our call by telling him I loved him, and he repeated the same. 3 days later, at 9:53 p.m., we received the phone call that would essentially change our lives forever. While incarcerated, Ralphie had hung himself. The compassion of all involved in his care, along with the love of his family and all of the prayers we received, directly and indirectly, resulted in my son being released from Satan's grip, dragging him to the depths of hell. He was pulled from the darkness to the light and a new beginning. After he was extubated, I was in the waiting area visiting with my granddaughters. Ralphie's friends came out and told me I was needed because he was having difficulty breathing. As I rushed back to his ICU room, I was momentarily stopped by a voice that said, "There is no need to hurry. Everything is going to be okay." I walked into the room and Ralphie was very stiff and tense. My husband, Ralph, took his feet and said, "Ralphie, you need to relax." At that moment, all the fight left him, and they were able to get his breathing tube inserted, and with that, his much-needed oxygen. He is now half of the man he used to be. He damaged his brain from the lack of oxygen and now needs help with the smallest of things we take for granted every day. He walks with a walker and can't stand without losing his balance. He can only drink water if he bends his head down to close his airway. He needs help bathing, dressing, eating, and brushing his teeth. He now sits in a 10 by 10 room and watches TV all day unless we make him go out. He cannot really hold a conversation. He has no memory of 2013. When I tell him he tried to kill himself, he does not believe me. Am I happy Ralphie is no longer using heroin? Definitely. However, the tragic event that led us to this point, I would not wish on my own enemy. As he was lying in the ICU hospital bed, we were told it was going to be a poor outcome. By that, they meant his death. I thought he had lived so I could say goodbye. I still have hope he will once again be his normal self. I know the unconditional love we have for Ralphie played a huge role in his recovery thus far and will continue to do so. When I ask him how much I love him, he answers, "Too much." As a mom, this statement could not be further from the truth, and as a mother of someone with this demon in their lives, I can tell you our strongest hope is our family to be whole again. Recently, I asked him what the worst drug is. He answered heroin. How many uses until you become addicted, I asked. His response was once. I asked him if he felt his childhood was unhappy or if he felt unloved. He said no. I then asked why. He stated, "I just thought I would try it." Just trying it sent his family into the throes of a F5 tornado. There was lying, stealing, manipulation. I hated calling my son a liar. I hated feeling sadness in my heart. I hated when the phone would ring for fear of what the caller would tell me. I hated the feeling of relief when he was at a rehab because at least I knew he was safer than on the streets. I hated the imaginary bricks that had become my wall to block out any hurt he could cause me. I hate that his dad, even after a year, is realizing missing items have been stolen. I hate that I'm sorry, cannot fix it. I hate knowing because of heroin my son was in jail for 3 days without my knowledge. I hate thinking, because fortunately he does not remember, he had given up all hope and made the decision to end his life all alone. A life I know is worth living. A life I first held in my arms 25 years ago and made a vow to protect. I hate heroin had consumed him and made the unconditional love I have and have always had for him become obsolete. I hate heroin, but I will not dwell on everything I hate because the unconditional love I have for my family and all the good in my life is more important. My glass is not only half full, it is overflowing. If I had just one wish, it would be wipe the world free of addiction. This would mean another parent would not have to endure the pain of hoping your child can hear you as you whisper in their ear, "I will never say goodbye, but if you are too tired to fight, I will forever understand." It would prevent a doctor saying to a family, "You will miss him for the rest of your life, but you will never have to worry about him again." It would prevent parents mourning the loss of their child. You see, not only the addict suffers, we love them so much we suffer, maybe even more. To love means loving the unlovable. To forgive means pardoning the unpardonable. Faith means believing the unbelievable. Hope means hoping when everything seems hopeless. I have always been a compassionate person. I do not judge. I know every single person I pass on the street is worth a smile and hello, and most important, someone's child and worthy of love. I would appreciate a moment of silence for the lives lost to this horrible demon. Lives like Chandra, whose body was found just last week on a Northeast Salem street. Lives like my youngest son's friend Brett, whose life is forever changed because of meth. People like my friend's children, Chase, who is still battling the demon, Heather, Connor, and Andrew, who at this moment are staying strong. Sadly, the list goes on and on. For all living in the darkness, I hope you see the light, love, and beauty surrounding you. For all struggling with addiction, whether you are addict, family, or friend, when the world gives up, hope whispers one more time. Every life is important, no one more than any other. Never give up hope. Thank you.
Hey, thank you all. And thank you, Darlene, for sharing.